Hello and welcome to Sussex Street Christian Centre's Reflection series, looking at the Gospel of Mark. We're going to be working through the Gospel by the subheadings that are in each chapter. So that will consist of roughly 72 reflections, which will take us all the way through Mark's Gospel. We hope that you're blessed by the reflections and that they will help you grow in your relationship with God, as well as inspiring you into action, both in being and bringing God's kingdom. Today, we are looking at Mark chapter 1 and verses 21 through to verse 28. And we're going to be reading from the New Living Translation. Jesus and his companions went to the town of Capernaum, and every Sabbath day he went into the synagogue and taught the people. They were amazed at his teaching, for he taught as one who had real authority, quite unlike the teachers of religious law. A man possessed by an evil spirit was in the synagogue, and he began shouting, "Why are you bothering us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One sent from God." Jesus cut him short. "Be silent! Come out of the man!" At that, the evil spirit screamed and threw the man into a convulsion, but then he left him. Amazement gripped the audience, and they began to discuss what had happened. "What sort of new teaching is this?" they asked excitedly. "It has such authority. Even evil spirits obey his orders." The news of what he had done spread quickly throughout the entire area of Galilee. I don't know if you can imagine that Jesus was going around teaching in the synagogue. You see, there was only one temple, but synagogues were widely scattered and devoted to the study of Scripture. If you could gather together with 10 other families, then you could create a synagogue. The Sabbath worship would include prayer as well as public speaking and the exposition of the Scriptures. The role of the president of the synagogue was to administer rather than be pastoral. And so he would invite qualified lay people to speak in the synagogue. The synagogue rulers would welcome a fresh, promising voice, which explains how Jesus could teach in the synagogue. In the passage that we have just read, it says that they were astonished at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority, not as the teachers of the law, or in some versions, the scribes. Scribes are scholars who interpret and teach the Torah, the scriptures that they had at that time. And they make judgments based on their application of the scripture. They tend to use other people's judgments and base their responses to different situations, both on the Torah, but then also on what other people have decided in the past. So they had their authority based originally in the scripture, but over time their authority had grown as a man-made authority. But quite unlike the scribes, Jesus teaches with personal authority. His authority is based neither on his credentials nor his ability to cite precedents or to quote parts of somebody else's understanding of the Bible. Jesus' authority was based on the Spirit that had descended onto him at his baptism. Jesus, the Son of God, and his authority comes from God. As Jesus taught, imagine the hush that came over the people. Imagine the crowds just sitting there gripped with Jesus' teaching. And then suddenly, out of the blue, this unclean person, this person who shouldn't even have been in the gathering, who shouldn't have been allowed in the synagogue because he was unclean and he would have caused other people to become unclean. But this person starts shouting out and causing mayhem. I wonder how we would react in those situations. But think about that. This man who cries out, "What do you want with us?" There is a plural term there. It suggests that the man and the unclean spirit were perhaps merged together somehow. And then Jesus rebuked him and used a singular term, so rebuked him rather than the man. So maybe Jesus was rebuking the unclean spirit. You see, Mark uses that term, the unclean spirit and demon, almost interchangeably. And so it suggests this kind of unworthiness, this impurity of this man who had made it in to see Jesus and who was then shouting out who Jesus was. Talk of spirits of demons seems to us a primitive thing, and it perhaps makes us uncomfortable today. We prefer to speak of poverty and mental illness as the cause of bizarre behavior. We also hesitate to use words like evil because it sounds judgmental. And we look to medical science to deliver to us a new understanding of perhaps what evil and what demons and evil spirits might be. However, medical science is unlikely ever to solve the problem of evil, which is a spiritual problem and a present reality in our world, even today. We only have to read the newspapers or look online to understand that our world has still got evil in it. And maybe the idea of exorcism, driving out demons or evil spirits, also makes us more uncomfortable. It still happens. The Roman Catholic Church have a team of people who will perform exorcisms, and other denominations will have teams of people who will deal with situations where no other explanation can be found and where perhaps there needs to be an opportunity to exorcise either a person or a place. So even in our modern world, there seems to be an understanding that there is still evil as well as God's Spirit. We should not then hesitate to call on God, to call on the Holy Spirit to deliver people from situations that haunt them, from times where they perhaps really can't see any other way forward. But we shouldn't go into those situations lightly. So how can we apply that to ourselves today? Well, I think the first thing that we should do is to acknowledge that Jesus' teaching was new at that time. And his teaching was full of authority. We also need to understand that even in our world today, there is the good which we believe is God in all situations. And if we acknowledge that God is alive and by his Holy Spirit he is with us, then maybe we also need to acknowledge that there is a force of evil. And sometimes we perhaps need to acknowledge that in different situations, and we need to pray about those situations and ask God to come into those situations and to send out those evil or those unclean spirits from those situations. So as we reflect on Mark chapter 1, this man Jesus, who taught with such authority, but who also had authority over many different situations that he was faced with. And that same Jesus has given us all authority in heaven and on earth. And if we are willing to submit to him, then he gives us authority to go into every situation that we might face for ourselves, not in our own strength, but in his strength. Let's pray together. Loving God, we thank you for Jesus' teaching, so much of which we have written down for us to be able to read and try to understand. Help us, as we read your word, to understand more of you and what you taught. Help us, Lord, to recognize good and evil, and help us to be able to pray in the right sort of ways as we meet different situations in our world today. Amen.